Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Battle of Brits events that is coming up next week. Just giving you all the details, sort of previewing the players that are involved, and also giving my predictions on who I think will win the singles event. So just a few details. First of all, I think it's worth giving credit to Jamie Murray and Barry Fulcher, who've sort of put this together, working with the LTA and obviously the National Tennis Centre to host it. But yeah, they've both done fantastically well to get the players involved, and you know, it's obviously a very difficult time to play any sport really with the current situation, but to get this tournament on is fantastic for British tennis, and also they're raising at least £100,000 for NHS charities, which is obviously massively important. Obviously in the current circumstances there's a lot of pressure on the NHS, and to raise 100,000 at least for them sort of charities is a fantastic achievement, and you know, something that they both deserve a lot of credit for. So the tournament starts next Tuesday, the 23rd of June, and runs till the 28th of June, which is a Sunday. It's live on Amazon Prime. There's 8 singles players, 2 groups of 4, and also 6 doubles groups, so 2 groups of 3. There's also women's events planned separately. I know there's a lot of British women's players are going to be involved in them. I think they're coming after the men's ones, which is separate, but yeah, make sure to stick around for them ones as well, because we've got many fantastic women's players that are going to be involved in them tournaments. Obviously this coronavirus pandemic has been a terrible thing worldwide and also in the UK, but you know, I think British tennis is making the best of a bad situation really. I mean, this event's going to be fantastic for showcasing British talent. It's on a big platform, being Amazon Prime. I know the Battle of the Brits has got their own Twitter account, and you know, I'm sure the players will be posting throughout the week in the training videos, and it does give a chance for British sport fans to be watching our British players and give them that sort of exposure and support. And hopefully we add British tennis fans, you know, hopefully people do tune in to Amazon Prime next week and watch the Battle of the Brits event and become fans of tennis and want to attend more UK events and follow our players. And if that can come out of it, and obviously raising, as I say, the 100,000 for NHS charities as a minimum, then you know, it's definitely give a massive boost to British tennis, which is brilliant given the current circumstances. Just talking about the tournament, you know, I think it's a fantastic setup, and I think there's going to be 4 weeks of British events, these two, and then obviously the women's events are going to come later on as well. And I'm sort of hoping this can become a regular thing. I know it's incredibly difficult when you've got, if the normal tours go and you've got players playing all over the world, but during the summer seasons, obviously when the grass courts are mainly in use, it would be nice to have an all British event. As I say, it would be quite difficult to organise. I don't know whether it would be really possible, but obviously if it was with fans rather than behind closed doors, it would be very good to have, you know, British tennis fans watching all our British players compete against each other. And this gives the likes of, you know, Jay Clark and Jack Draper and, you know, Emma Raducanu and, you know, Harriet Dart, Katie Swan, our young teenage talents that, you know, are hopefully going to have lots of success in the future with, you know, being on Amazon Prime and playing our other British players. It does sort of give them that platform to attract a new audience and attract fans and support for the future, and that's massively important, I feel. You know, Andy and Joe Conter have been, you know, real brilliant flag bearers for British tennis on and off court, but at some point they are going to retire, and somebody else is going to need to carry the torch and be that, you know, inspiring figures for the next gen of British players. So the more we can sort of, you know, get them out in the media and showcase their talents, get them sort of fans and support, the better. And I think these sort of events are a fantastic opportunity to do that, and something that, you know, the LTA need to take real advantage of in the future. So it sort of runs in line with the aim of my blog. You know, I've been working on my blog and doing player interviews just to try and improve the media exposure and hopefully increase support of British players. I feel a lot of British players, you know, dedicate their life to the sport and make sacrifices all throughout the early teens, and you know, they do sacrifice their lives from a very early age to pursue a career in the sport, and a lot of them achieve lots of great things, particularly in the ITF tour. And I don't always feel they get the media exposure or the support that they really deserve, which is something I want to change. And I just hope by doing player interviews and writing player analysis and giving my opinions on British tennis, they attract British sport fans to start supporting our tennis players and want to attend more UK events. And I just hope the profiles grow really, and it all results in improving British tennis if you get more people attending events. The events usually become better and attract more high profile names. The players get bigger sponsorships and hopefully can climb the rankings, and then the more players that Britain has at the top of the rankings, the more aspirational figures they have, and more children pick up tennis rackets really and want to achieve what they've achieved. So hopefully it can all just sort of result in British tennis becoming better. But as I say, I think these UK events are a fantastic thing, and hopefully they become more regular. So if you do enjoy this men's event next week, make sure to stick around for the women's one, because as I say, we've got lots of very talented women's players as well coming through, and they'll serve up some classic matches, I'm sure. But just looking ahead to the singles players, and a quick chat about each of them. The Tim Henman group is made up of James Ward, Andy Murray, Liam Brodie and Kyle Edmund, and the Greg Rosetsky group is made up of Jack Draper, Cam Norrie, Jay Clark and Dan Evans. So kicking things off with James Ward, he's had a very successful singles and doubles career. He's in his 30s now, but he was obviously part of that Team GB group that won the Davis Cup back in 2015, very famously. He's got a huge serve, very good ground strokes, and he likes the hard court. So, James is a fantastic player to watch. He's been a brilliant advocate for British tennis throughout his career, and I'm sure he'll serve up some fantastic tennis next week. Moving on to Andy Murray, doesn't really need an introduction. 3-time Grand Slam champion, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, world number 1, and arguably the greatest ever British tennis player ever. I mentioned before about Joe Conter. He's been a fantastic advocate for British tennis, and a brilliant flag bearer for everyone in Britain that's aspire to be like Andy and pick up a tennis racket. He's inspired, I imagine, thousands and thousands across Scotland and England and Wales and Ireland to pick up a racket, and even across the world. He's competed with the absolute best, the likes of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, Wawrinka. He's beat them all, and at the time, unfortunately, when his injury came about, he was undoubtedly the best player in the world. And it's just fantastic to see Andy back in court. We got to a point with that hip injury that I think everybody, doubted whether we'd see Andy back at full fitness, and I think Andy doubted himself at times whether he could get back to the level that he wanted to. But he looked good last year. I think this year he was planning to play a lot of events and hopefully compete at the Wimbledon and US Open. But next week it'll just be fantastic to see Andy playing tennis and enjoying tennis again. He looks like he's enjoying his practices again. I've seen him training with his brother Jamie, and looks like he's thoroughly enjoying it and back to full fitness. But even if Andy doesn't get back to that top level, winning Grand Slams, just seeing Andy compete again, and as I say, happy on a tennis court is what we want. And hopefully next week we see some of the fantastic tennis that Andy can produce. Moving on to Liam Brodie, obviously had a fantastic junior career, reached 2 singles finals in junior Grand Slams, and he obviously won Wimbledon and the Australian Open in junior doubles. He's had a lot of pro success on the ITF Tour, challenges and future events. He's won a lot of singles and doubles titles, and he's still only 26, so I think you could argue for Liam that his best years are still ahead of him. Most tennis players peak at the late 20s or early 30s, but he's very entertaining player to watch, and from what I've seen in the interviews beforehand, a lot of the players fancy to beat him because he's a good talker, Liam, and very entertaining on and off the court, very funny guy. And yeah, I'm sure he'll provide us with some fantastic tennis next week against the likes of Andy. I'm sure that'll be a great battle that I'm sure they're both much looking forward to. Kyle Edmund, as you say, he supported Andy very, very, very well in the early years, but Kyle's become, his own superstar in his own right, really. He broke through in 2015 at Davis Cup when we won it, and he sort of captured the imagination of a lot of British tennis fans. And I think from then on he's really sort of kicked on. His 2018 was fantastic. He reached the semi-final in the Australian Open, got into the top 16 in the world, and I think when you consider how competitive this era of men's tennis is, you've got the big three, Andy, Stan, and then even away from them you've got the likes of Goffin and Cilic and Raonic, Monfils plays at, so to get in the top 16 of an era like that is a massive achievement. And unfortunately for Kyle, he didn't sort of kick on from that 2018. He had a poor 2019, he really struggled for form, but he came back at the start of this year with a title win in New York. Looked back to his best, and he's a real threat in hard courts. He's got a massive game from the back of the court, very powerful ground strokes, huge serve, and he's got to be one of the favourites to win the event next week. If he can find his best form on the hard courts, then he's incredibly difficult to stop. Moving on to the Greg Rosetsky group, starting with Jack Draper. You have to say, probably, if you're looking at players to carry British tennis within the next 10-15 years, Jack Draper's probably one of them you look towards. I think him and Emma Raducanu are the most talented teenagers that we've got, and if they can stay fit and continue with the right guidance, stay focused on tennis, and keep progressing at the rate they are, then I think them two are going to have very successful careers. Obviously, Jack Draper reached that Wimbledon junior final in 2018 and lost an absolute epic final, but he gained a lot of support, and I think people watched him that match and thought, right, if there's somebody going to carry British tennis, men's tennis in the future, this guy is probably the guy. And since then, he's done very well. He's won 7 singles titles, future and ITF level. 6'3", big server, very exciting, extremely talented, a great watch, and yeah, he's sort of the guy that I feel could take on over the likes of Andy Murray and Edmund, and in a few years' time, obviously he's got a long way to go. He's only 18 years of age, and I think it's important that he doesn't have too much pressure piled on him at an early age, but he is undoubtedly an exciting talent, and it will be interesting to see how he gets on against the top guys in Britain at an early age. I certainly won't be writing him off. He's, as I say, he's got fantastic weapons, and he's a great mover around the court, very fit, and yeah, this is a perfect opportunity for him and the likes of Jay Clark, who maybe sports fans and people that aren't hardcore tennis fans might not have heard of Jack Draper and Jay Clark, or certainly might not have watched them. Well, this is the opportunity to watch them next week, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Moving on to Cam Norrie, who's been in fantastic form. He's in the top 100 at the minute. Him and Dan Evans had fantastic 2019, and obviously Norrie was part of that, again, Davis Cup team in 2015. And his career sort of took off when he came back from 2 sets down against Roberto Bautista Agut. I think it was Norrie's clay debut, if I remember rightly, and Bautista Agut, obviously a Spaniard who was at home on clay, and Bautista Agut was 2 sets up to 0 in that match before Norrie somehow produced one of the comebacks of all time to win 3-2, and a lot of people sort of started taking notice of Norrie at that time and became supporters of Cam, and yeah, he's a fantastic player, great around the court, he's very strong on both sides, and yeah, he's just got every shot in the book really. Cam, he's very entertaining to watch, and as I say, he's in the top 100 at the minute. He's had a few big wins over the last couple of years, and he's a player that is going to keep progressing. He's 23, 24 now, and I think his best years are ahead of him. And yeah, Cam will produce some fantastic tennis next week, and he's capable of beating anybody in the world, I believe. Jay Clark, as I said, he's had a lot of success. He's particularly on the doubles court. Actually, I mean, a lot of people should have seen at Wimbledon. He's reached the 2018, I think it was, mixed doubles semi-final with Harriet Dart, another great youngster on the women's tour. In 2017, he beat the defending champions Pierre Hubert and Nicolas Mahut in the quarter-final, I believe it was. Yeah, he done very well that year, and he's a very, very good doubles player, is Jay Clark. Also improving his singles rankings and titles all the time. He has a great serve, he's only 21, very powerful from the back of the court, and again, this would be a fantastic experience for him to play against the likes of Andy and Edmund, Cam Norrie, Dan Evans. It's a fantastic opportunity for him to showcase his talent and sort of attract a new audience for himself. And lastly, Dan Evans, currently ranked his highest position that he's ever been in, 20th in the world. Last year, he sort of had a fantastic time of the year. At this time of the year, he won in Surbiton and Nottingham, unfortunately, obviously them events won't be played this year, but Dan really thrived on the grass courts last year and really thrived playing in front of a UK audience, which is fantastic to see. And I think Dan's got one of the best styles on the men's tour, let alone just in Britain. You know, his backhand is absolutely unbelievable. He's got one of the best single-handed backhands in the world, I believe. The sort of power and change-ups that he's got with it is fantastic to watch. And if you aren't familiar with tennis and you don't watch much tennis, and you're looking to tune in next week, make sure you watch Dan Evans, because you know you'll be thoroughly entertained. He's a fantastic player. As I say, thoroughly entertaining. He plays some crazy shots, and if there's anybody that I advise you to watch next week, it is Dan Evans with his style. You will not be disappointed, and he's in the form of his life. So yeah, who you tip to win the event is very difficult, really. I mean, none of them have played competitive tennis for a while, and he's got to be up there with the favourites. But for me, Dan Evans is in the form of his life. You know, he's done fantastically well. He beat Andrei Rublev at the start of the year, who was one of the up-and-coming superstars. He battled well against Stefanos Tsitsipas, who we all know is, you know, one of the top 10, top 5 players in the world on his day. And for me, Dan's been consistently the best men's player on the British side for the past 18 months. I'll be tipping Dan to win the event next week. But more importantly, just tune into the event, just support the players, and get following them on Twitter, get following the I forgot the name of the event. It's a Back the Brits event. I will leave the link in the description to all the Twitter account and stuff, but just follow the players on Twitter, follow the Twitter account, and make sure you're watching all the sort of training videos and interviews beforehand. I'm hoping to interview a couple of the players that are going to be involved next week, so stay tuned on the channel. I am hoping to get a couple of interviews with players that will hopefully happen. But yeah, just support the event, support the players, support British tennis, and tune in next week. And if you haven't watched tennis before, give it a go and see how you find it, but I'm sure you won't be disappointed. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. I hope you'll be bringing out a doubles preview as well, and then hopefully the women's tournaments are going to happen in a couple of weeks' time. I think they're just confirming players and stuff like that, dates and how the event's exactly going to run. But I have got lots of player interviews with British players on the channel already, so if you want to check them out, just go on my channel and you'll be able to find them there. But yeah, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, it helps a lot, and I will see you on the next video.